What is me?
Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Right. So I'm Alex. I'm the co-founder of Standuply. It's a project management app which we've been building for 8 years with a vision of being a digital assistant for project managers and product managers, even before AI became a very hot topic. And beyond building a tool, we always wanted to also connect people and share experience so that we can learn together. And this year we finally got it started. So we had over 7 great meetings. And today we have a meeting that we've been anticipating a lot with Sanjiv Augustine. And also I shared it a little bit before that today we hit a record of over 130 people signing up, which is super exciting. Let me introduce first Katrina. She's the one who helped us to set it up, to find the time with Sanjiv and organize this meeting. She will be helping us with questions and all the other stuff. And Sanjiv Augustine, he is CEO of Lightspeed and Agile Leadership Academy. So if you guys can drop in the chat your position and where you're joining from, we would have a better understanding of the audience today. And now my role is almost finished, and I'm passing the mic to Sanjiv.
Thank you so much, Alex, and thank you for the invitation. Really appreciate you and Katerina working with our team, Maggie Spivey and others, just to get us to this point. There are a lot of logistics to get this stuff taken care of. So I also want to reach out to everybody who's there online and want to encourage you to participate either via the chat. I notice a lot of you have the cameras off, but if you don't want to jump on video, feel free to put your questions in the chat, comments, and I see a lot of familiar faces, including Sarah Lloyd, Favreau, and Yuri Sky, and Bill Pratt popped in over there, and I think we even potentially have Jim Highsmith, who's one of the authors of the Agile Manifesto, may potentially joining us. I know he was registered. All right, so why don't we begin with a quick check? I'd like you to sort of put in a quick baseline check over here. If you're familiar with Agile methods, let's say more than 2 or 3 years, put a yes in the chat and put a no if you don't have that much experience. So Bob, yeah, so most of you guys are Agile experts. Same thing for artificial intelligence or AI. And let's kind of restrict that to generative AI, because a lot of what we're seeing today is mostly about generative AI, and I don't expect that many folks will have a lot of experience with machine learning or anything like that. So hopefully you're familiar with things like ChatGPT or Gemini or Anthropic's Claude. So put a yes if you've been playing around with these tools in the last year or so. All right, fantastic. So this is a great audience to speak with, to converse with, and what we're going to do is to bring those two threads together. Historically, artificial intelligence has been around for a long time. We've seen it burst on the world scene and common knowledge, if you will, mainly because of ChatGPT a couple of years ago. And Agile methods have been around for at least 20-something years. And historically, there are threads of Agile methods that go back to Lean and Lean process improvement and the Toyota production system to about 100 years. Right? So we're going to bring those two things together. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my PowerPoint presentation. And let's see, yes. So give me a quick thumbs up if you guys can see my presentation. Everybody see it? Yep, good. All right. All right, fantastic. So we already got the introduction. I've been in this space for over 20 years myself. Bob Schatz as well, Bob and I and some others have been in this Agile space for a long time. And I've been in the corporate space for over 30 years. In the last 10 years, we've been involved with this thing called value management. And of course, in the last few years with threading together agile methods with AI. What we want to do today is to just set some introductory context, talk about the extreme turbulence we're facing today, not just with the onset of generative AI, but also with the VUCA conditions, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. You guys know that's a term that was coined in the War College in the Cold War. And it sort of aptly describes not only our micro environment, but also the macro environment in which we're operating today. Okay. And so what we want to talk about is how to respond when faced with that hyper volatility, if you will. And we were chatting a little bit earlier, and Bob said, well, it's all about sort of extreme iteration. And I kind of smiled because, Bob, I'm going to jump straight into talking about what we call hyper agility. With agile methods, one of the goals is iteration. And what we want to do with using AI technologies and AI tools is to accelerate that iteration in many quarters, right? So as such, what I want to leave you today with is a 5-point cheat sheet, a 5-point guidebook or cheat sheet, or actually it's not so much a guidebook as it is a cheat sheet with 5 points to help you figure out how to integrate AI technologies into your agile teams, into your agile methods, and just maybe overall into your agile ways of working. All right, so that's our plan. I am going to pause there, make sure I have the chat up, and I'm going to play a video over here. So this is a video about this thing, this AI program called AlphaGo. So any chess players, if you want to pop it.
Есть десяточки?
Chess players, could you just put into the chat whether you are a chat or not, excuse me, chess player or not? Any chess players, yes or no? There's got to be at least a couple. Nobody in the chat. Okay. Perfect. A little bit. Okay. So Sarah watched the documentary. Fantastic. So chess is certainly a really old game, right? There's also another game which involves perhaps a more complex set of maneuvers and moves and such, and that comes to us from East Asia, and that's called Go. Right? And so the video I'm going to play is this sort of dramatization, if you will, of AlphaGo, which is the program that went up against the reigning world champion Lee Sedol from Korea.
Go is the world's oldest continuously played board game. It is one of the simplest and also most abstract.
Beating a professional player at Go is a long-standing challenge of artificial intelligence.
Everything we've ever tried in AI just falls over when you try the game of Go.
The number of possible configurations of the board is more than the number of atoms in the universe.
AlphaGo found a way to learn how to play Go.
So far, AlphaGo has beaten every challenge we've given it, but we won't know its true strength until we play somebody who is at the top of the world, like Lee Sedol.
A match like no other is about to get underway in South Korea.
Lee Sedol is to Go what Roger Federer is to tennis.
Just the very thought of a machine playing a human is inherently intriguing.
The place is a madhouse.
Welcome to the DeepMind Challenge.
The whole world is watching.
Can Lee Sedol find AlphaGo's weakness? Ooh. Whoa. Is there, in fact, a weakness?
The game kind of turned on its axis.
Oh, look at his face.
That is not a confident face.
It's developing into a very, very dangerous fight.
Ooh, hold the phone. Lee has left the room.
In the end, it is about pride.
I think there's something went wrong.
Yeah, it's made a mistake.
He's got to pronounce it a miracle.
These ideas that are driving AlphaGo are going to drive our future.
This is it, folks.
All right. These ideas that are driving AlphaGo are going to be driving our future. I'm going to stop there for a quick logistics move. Katerina, it looks like you made me host. I'm going to make you the host again because there might be people in the waiting room. It sounds like Alex is saying that. So I'll make you the host.
Thank you.
Okay.
Back.
And if you could mute the folks who are not muted, I think there might be some interference. Some folks' mics might be on. All right. So our questions becomes, number one, what are the potential impacts of those technologies, AI technologies? We know they're widespread. This guy who's quoted over here, this is from a book called The Coming Wave. He's the one of the principals at AlphaGo. His name is Mustafa Suleiman. And he lays out 4 characteristics of the coming wave, if you will. And he talks about not just AI technologies, but also biotech and gene editing and that sort of thing. And he says, number one, that this wave of technologies is going to be omni-use. That is, we're all going to be using it. And we know that many of us are already using AI in some way, shape, or fashion, and especially if it involves machine learning, and maybe not so much Gen AI yet. So omni-use, all of us are going to be using it. These technologies are evolving at an amazing rate, and that's what he calls hyper-evolution. Right. And so omni-use, hyper-evolution, asymmetric. So they're asymmetric in their impact, in that there are potentially the impact. There's the potential for these technologies to impact our industries, our lives in many, many ways, so much so that the impacts will be just dramatic and asymmetric. And then finally, he says that the coming wave is going to be autonomous, especially as it relates to AI technologies and chatbots. We have to get ready for a world where we could potentially have AI team members, right? So one of the things that we had over here is a project managers cheat sheet. How many of you are project managers? If you can just pop that into the chat. I know the Project Management Institute has been preparing their own Gen AI program. They call it Infinity. And they're preparing their base, the project managers of the world, to get ready to not only use generative AI through their assistant called Infinity, but also for a world where we might have members of the team, and maybe the majority of our members of the team are actually AI chatbots, right? So that's the autonomous nature of what we're dealing with. So the question for us as Agilists becomes, how can we build on the foundation of Agile methods? Things that have developed for 20 plus years. The Agile Manifesto was written and signed and agreed to in 2001. Here we are in 2024. And what we've seen is we've gone through the technology adoption curve, if you will, or from Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm. And today, the standard adoption of Agile frameworks, things like Scrum, things like Scaled Agile Framework or DSDM or some of these larger, well-known frameworks, have reached a close to saturation point in that, there's no longer the sort of rising demand and going up that side of this normal distribution. And if anything, we're starting to decline, right? So we've had an incredible run with Agile methods for over 20-something years. Scrum and SAFe and even things like DevOps are kind of ubiquitous. They're everywhere. We're all using them, and they're embedded into our organizations. Now we have challenges, and then in particular, we have to look at how AI will potentially disrupt or is disrupting our Agile ways of working. But I always like to look at things from a higher vantage point and take the art of the long view, if you will. And if we take the art of the long view, every time we go through that normal distribution, every time we go through a technology adoption curve, there is something called the double S curve of innovation. So if we are indeed paying attention to what we're doing, if we are indeed taking a mindful look at our organizations, at our teams, the ways we're working, and if we're adjusting and learning and iterating quickly, then what we can do is then we can start to move into enterprise agility. And so what we are facing on one hand is a declining adoption of Agile methods, or a maturation of Agile methods, if you will, at least the standard framework kind. But we're also facing, and we have an opportunity here in that we can move towards enterprise agility, and particular or specifically use AI to drive that innovation at scale. All right. So where do we start? From Agile methods, if you talk to any of the folks, particularly folks like Bob Schatz and others, one of the things that we've advocated for and taught in our classes and shared in our consulting work is that agile methods are fundamentally about two things, right? They are about incremental product development. So when we say incremental product development, we want to take our larger product and break it down into smaller chunks, if you will. So here's a question for you guys. How do we eat an elephant? This is at least a Western term, phrase, if you will. How do you eat an elephant? Either call it out or put it in the chat. How do we eat an elephant? Deep fry. That's the first time I've heard. That's all right. All right. So Sarah's got it over there. One bite at a time. Absolutely. And so we're not advocating eating elephants. They're wise, gentle creatures for sure. But what is the meaning of that phrase when we say one bite at a time? What do we mean? Eating the elephant one bite at a time. Incrementally, that's right. So what we're saying is that when we have a larger complex problem or larger complex product, what we want to do is to break it into small chunks and deliver those chunks incrementally and prioritize that. That's one of the fundamental underpinnings of agile methods. The other fundamental underpinning of agile methods, in addition to incremental product development, is an iterative process. So let me ask you guys, what do we mean when we say iteration? What are we talking about? Iteration, when you say iteration, and especially when we apply that term to agile methods. What does iteration mean? What does it mean to iterate? Version, that's right. What else? Anybody else want to take a guess as to what iteration means? Repeating a set of process. Thank you, Bhavna. So what we mean within an agile process, let's take Scrum, for example, or even the scaled agile framework, we have these time boxes, right? Typically two-week time boxes. In Scrum, we call them sprints. In SAFe, we call them iterations, or in extreme programming, they're also called iterations. And in addition to taking our product and bringing it down to the small chunks, when we say iterations, what we are shooting to do is that we're repeating with changes. Thank you, Katerina. We're going through the Deming quality improvement cycle, which is plan, do, check, act. So within every time box, we're planning our work, we're doing it, we're checking, we're acting, and we're learning from that. Plan, do, check, act over and over again, and we're iterating as quickly as possible. So let's see what Sam Altman, and I think all of you know that Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, the company that owns and rolled out ChatGPT. Let's see what he talks about when we're mentioning iteration.
The cycle here is basically talk to customer, understand pain point, build product to address that, get that in front of a user, see what they do, and then repeat the cycle. And this cycle is how you iterate and improve. The law of compound growth being what it is, if you can get 2% better every iteration cycle, and you have a chance of having an iteration cycle be every 4 hours or every 4 weeks, and you compound that over the course of a few years, you get in very different places. Make it one of your top goals to build the fastest iterating company the world has ever seen.
Make it one of your top goals to build the fastest iterating company that the world has ever seen. So there, my friends, lies the answer to us who are facing this world of extreme uncertainty, but are building on our foundation of agile methods. We need to take these concepts of rapid iteration and incremental product development and apply them as we integrate these AI techniques or AI technologies. So from a responsible perspective or a responsibility perspective, because the title of this talk was Responsible AI, right? How can we do this responsibly? Because AI technologies come with great promise, but they also come with the potential for great harm. And it's imperative or incumbent on us to understand that if we don't integrate these AI technologies in a responsible way, human agency will decrease even as AI agency increases, as in our power as human beings will likely decrease even as we seek to give more power over our lives and over our ways of working to these AI technologies. So here are some guidelines or imperatives, if you will. I'm not going to read them out, but I want to call your attention to a couple of those charts, both of which have happened in pretty recent history, if you will. So using AI technologies, meteorologists were able to predict just very quickly that Hurricane Milton would go from a Category 1 to Category 5. The AI technologies, it was called, I believe from one of the universities, a research technology that they used, and they predicted with close to 100% certainty that Hurricane Milton in 24 hours will go from a Category 1 hurricane to a Category 5 hurricane. Great use, AI for good, wonderful. That's exactly the type of use that we want with these AI technologies as it applies to societal well-being. You look at the bottom one, which is sort of a regrettable application or misapplication of AI technologies. That's a deep fake or a fake that was generated after one of the hurricanes and used to create confusion, doubt, and mistrust of the government, of the relief efforts, and ultimately ended up harming other people as well. Right? So we have to balance these. This tool of AI or these set of technologies of AI can be used for good, and they can also be used for not so good or evil purposes. Right? So I want to run a quick poll for you guys over here. Has your organization been impacted by the fraud, cybersecurity issues, and or the onset or the rapid onset of AI technology? So you can see on your screens the QR code. You can scan that, or just go to menti.com and use this number 2858-1907. 2858-1907. All right, and if Katerina or somebody, if you could just type that or just pop that number into the chat. There you go. Thank you. You're one step ahead of me. All right, let's take a look at it. Cybersecurity, rapid onset, fraud. Okay, let's get a couple more people jumping in. I think about 4 people have taken the poll. On a phone, Bill says, but my answer is no, not affected. Any other respondents? All right, so some of you has not been affected. So the reason I'm asking you this is that these are reasonably well spread at this point, particularly if you're working in the government space or in financial services, if you will. And there are companies that have agile teams and have now integrated AI techniques and built on that foundation of the agile platform, if you will, to enhance their capabilities in this area. And so here are some of those organizations. If you guys know the utility company, Pacific Gas and Electric, they're the utility company out on the West Coast in Northern California. Some years back, if you know, as you can recall, they were being affected by wildfires, right? So it was their utility poles were falling down in these sort of extreme winds. And because it was also dry at the same time, wildfires were being started. And PG&E was having a really tough time handling all of the fallout from those wildfires. So one of the things that they did was they had this team develop an AI predictive platform, and they had, I think, about 10,000 miles or so of utility lines. But what they would do is feed in the data from all of these utility poles, and their AI suite, it was called Sherlock Suite, I believe, would go out and predict where the potential failures were. And that was moving from a manual inspection regime, if you will, where they were trying to get all of those poles inspected by human beings, and that's just not possible, particularly quickly. So they then built on a scaled agile framework, and they had a couple of I think it is an art, right? So agile release train. They had the AI team over there, and they rapidly rolled out the solution, and they've been using it pretty successfully over there. So that's an example how an organization was able to use AI, build on their agile teams, and use it for a very successful outcome. All right. So our question is, how can we do that? And what is our sort of 5-point cheat sheet, if you will? So here's our 5-point cheat sheet. I think we can make the slides available. We'll find a way between Maggie Spivey on our team and Katerina on the Standuply team. We'll find a way to make the slides available to you so that you can take you can get these 5 points. But let's jump into the first one. So we were having a conversation earlier, Bob, myself, and others, and we were talking about Scrum. Scrum has been around for a long time, and Scrum generally has been pretty successful at the team level. And then we also have the Scaled Agile framework, which is now, and large-scale Scrum, which are scaled methods along with Scrum at Scale and some others, right? But if we separate out team-based Agile methods, and this includes Scrum, Extreme Programming, Kanban, or some of the lesser-known methods like Crystal and such, those apply to one team at a time. And now if we want multiple teams working together in alignment, then we pull in one of the scaled methods like Scaled Agile Framework or SAFe or large-scale Scrum or less and such, right? Now, the problem we have is that when we start to apply Agile methods, even at the team level, or certainly at the scaled level, we have this anti-pattern, if you will, of doing things by rote, doing things in a mindless way. So one of the reasons that we've seen a lot of Agile frustrations and failures is because people have taken these methodologies out of the box and they've applied them somewhat, no better way to say it, mindlessly to situations where they really shouldn't have done or rolled out those Agile methods in that particular way. So what we're saying over here is that if you're doing team-based Agile, whether it be Scrum or Kanban or Extreme Programming, and if you're doing Scaled Agile with Scaled Agile Framework or large-scale Scrum, let's make sure that we apply these methods in a fit-for-purpose way. That is, let's make sure that we can customize these methods to our particular organization and even within the organization to our particular team. So let's look at our teams, let's look at the organizations, and then let's look at a way to customize the implementation of those Agile methods and build that fit-for-purpose foundation, right? So let me ask you a question. I'm going to just pause here and I'll ask you the question and then I'll explain what's on the screen here, which is something that we call business agility sparks. Who here is actually fine-tuning or tuning or customizing their Agile adoption to their teams? Anybody? Are you able to fine-tune? Are you able to adjust? Or are you just following, let's say, the Scrum guide or the SAFe, the big picture and just sort of blindly implementing that? All the time, Andy says. Yes. So what are some of the things that you might be tweaking, if you will? Always emphasize customization. Atlassian, yes. Okay, fantastic. So give me an example or give us an example of making hybrids. Thank you. So what kind of hybrid? That's a great example, Andy. So what kind of a hybrid would you put in place? Scrumban. I think it is. I'm a man after my own heart. So give us an example of a project situation or a product situation where you would use a hybrid of Scrum and Kanban that we call Scrumban. What's an example? Like of resources to meet Scrum requirements. So we have a team. I assume when you say resources, you mean team members. We don't have sufficient members on our team to have, the nine or 10 people that a team might have, a Scrum team might require. So maybe we have 3 or 4 people. And if we try to implement Scrum as is out of the box, we won't be able to meet our sprint deadlines and actually get things done. So we just have a backlog, we prioritize that, and then we take the highest priority item and implement. Bob says they need a team to swarm on the problem. The work is volatile. Agile UX. Yeah, when the work is outside the product development space, whether it's sales, marketing, operations, UX, those are great, or or operations. I think I already said operations, marketing. Those are great examples where there's a lot of variability in the work. We might have some small tasks, we might have some really large tasks. Some things might get done in a matter of hours, other things might take weeks and months. And so in those situations, what we like to do is to adapt our standard adoption of Scrum, combine it with Kanban, and say, let's get a flow-based framework going. Right. In a situation like that, we have this thing called the Business Agility Sparks. It's a bare bones foundation. You can take it and you can implement it in any of your other Agile frameworks, whether it's Scrum or Safe or what have you. And so what you see is end-to-end teams. You have a number of teams working to end-to-end. We shift left to the business side. We shift right to the deployment and downstream. And then we also put in this thing called an Agile Value Management Office. And then, of course, to prioritize and match capacity to demand, we have this thing called a portfolio Kanban, which is one of the practices from Scale to Agile, if you will. And everything that goes into the portfolio gets prioritized and then makes its way down the funnel to the teams. On the top left, what we see is an innovation mechanism where we have a customer innovation wall. We'll test out some ideas, and if an idea is validated and we know it's going to deliver value to a customer, then it enters the portfolio. All right. So that's our fit for purpose foundation if you're looking at integrating AI into our Agile teams. The other enterprise approach that we want to follow, and this comes to us from Lean manufacturing, Toyota Production System initially, which then became the Toyota Way. And now, if you bring it back to our organizations, we say what we want is we want to make sure that everything we do is oriented around the customer. So typically in product development or historical legacy software development, we generally have our methodologies from the inside looking out. Like we say, well, this is our view of the world. This is how we're going to set up our organizations. This is how we're going to set up our teams. And it creates confusion, frustration, and it really stymies the delivery of customer value. So the Lean way of doing this is to say, let's start with our customer. Let's understand what the customer's problems are. Let's understand how to deliver a flow of value as quickly as possible to a customer. Let's make sure our decision-making is deferred down to the lowest possible level so that we can accelerate our flow of value. And to do that, what Lean advocates is to look at a value stream. And a value stream is just a set of processes from end to end. What we do is we say, let's look at that customer, let's look at the customer journey, and let's then organize everything, our organization structure, our process flows, our entire ways of working around that value stream. Right? So it might end up looking something like this, where we have here's an example of a value stream for a loan loan request, and then you go through the entire steps of the loan process to the ultimate delivery of customer value, where the loan is delivered back to the customer. And then what we do is we look at all the systems that are there, we look at our teams, and then we want to make sure that we remove the impediments and optimize the systems around every single one of the steps, along the value stream. All right. So cheat sheet step number one is let's create a fit for purpose foundation. Cheat sheet step number two, put in that organization around value streams. Now, this is where the rubber meets the road, and we have to start to think seriously about how we can integrate our AI technologies. And there are three shifts over here. A shift left to AI-enabled product discovery, a shift right to AI-assisted development, software development with MLOps, machine learning operations, and a shift up into leadership and management with what we call an AI-assisted value management office. Let's jump into our first one, which is an AI-assisted value management office. Anyone here familiar with a PMO, a project management office? Actually, I saw a PMO lead over here introduce themselves earlier. So tell us, what is usually the main responsibility of a PMO, a project management office? A project management office. What is a PMO? Generally, the charter of a project management office. So as you guys jump in, having been involved with PMOs and having been a project manager in my past life, a project management office is generally given responsibility for the oversight and governance of projects. Right? Now, that's a project approach. We look for touch points, we look for governance checkpoints, and yes, they have a center of excellence. So you have templates. It tends to be process focused, and it tends to be phase focused. If you're coming from a waterfall perspective, we look at different phases, and then we look at those governance points by phase. Now, with the value management office, what we advocate is we say, let's focus more on the business outcomes, things like increasing customer satisfaction, things like increasing revenue, things like reducing costs, things like increasing team satisfaction. These are all business outcomes that we can measure, track, and monitor using things like objectives and key results. And then what we can do is we can say, rather than focus on the project outputs, which are deliverables, which might be code, which might be just tracking velocity, if you will, if you're doing agile teams. Rather than just looking at those, we can sort of keep an eye on those. But what we do is we start to orient all of the work we're doing towards measuring business value, measuring the business outcomes. And then our PMO can then reinterpret itself and transition into becoming a value management office and measure business outcomes and support agile teams so that the agile teams in turn can start to operate faster and faster across that value stream that we just defined, right? So now the question becomes, within this organization, within this group that we're pulling together, the value management office, what we say is that let's bring a cross-functional group together. This is going to be a few people from the teams. If you look at the bottom level, the end-to-end teams over there, you see those little figures, the linking pins. We got a few executives that are also part of this Agile Value Management Office. And then we bring this group of people, the middle management group that we call the Agile Value Management Office together. And we say, now we have a group of people that can be a team of teams. What are they going to do? They're going to set the direction, they're going to help lead change, and they're going to ensure AI oversight. So there are three major categories of work. One is lean portfolio management. This is basically matching the demand to the supply, prioritizing demand. I showed you that portfolio Kanban. That's one major part of his work. The second is adaptive governance. And this is where we like to use an acronym called CARLA, C-A-R-L-A, compliance, audit, risk, legal, and architecture. What our VMO does, and actually includes people from each one of these stakeholder groups, compliance, audit, risk, legal, architecture, and they're now able to pull in end-to-end, look at the delivery of value across multiple teams, and make sure that we're actually getting things done, and move now from what we call phase-based governance, I mentioned this earlier, to audit-based governance. That is, we don't wait for large, big batches. We don't wait for the phase. At any point in time, compliance, audit, risk, legal, and architecture can come in and they can audit what the teams are doing. And in order to do that, we need a disciplined process, we need a documented process, and we need the process to be automated as much as possible so that the teams can move their value quickly from end to end, but at the same time be subject to governance at any point in time, right? So that's the adaptive governance part of it. The third part of the work for the Agile VMO is now going to be responsible AI. Let's look at the management perspective of how we can ensure AI oversight, and then also how we can do some brainstorming and some scenario planning using the red team, blue team approach. All right, so let's look at the first one. To ensure AI oversight into our VMO, what we want to do is to embed an ethics team. Let's make sure that we're looking and considering representatives from diverse backgrounds, data analysis, data analysts, if you will, data science, domain experts. We were talking earlier and we said, well, a lot of AI product development, a majority of it is about collecting, scrubbing, and processing vast amounts of data and then analyzing it and using statistical analysis and with sort of model model generation and model tuning, right? So to do all of those things and to ensure that we don't have the biases that we as humans naturally perpetrate, we want to make sure that we have cross-functional representation. We need to make sure that our people are trained in and educated in AI ethics. Is it a good thing to be to sort of unknowingly and unwittingly perpetuate that fraud or those ethics violations? We have to be very careful, right? So ongoing training, ongoing education is a big part of this. Audit the training data if you're doing training of data models, or excuse me, training of large language models and stuff. Let's audit let's extend that principle of governance to the auditing of the training data, and then also make sure that we have enough representation from underrepresented groups as we're putting our models together. Right. So a big part of the Agile VMO now becomes AI oversight. Okay. Now, from cybersecurity, you guys might have heard of this term called red teaming, or red team, blue team approach. I want to ask you guys to put in your chat whether through cybersecurity or whether through AI scenario planning, who's done red teaming and blue team, red team, blue team approach. Who's heard of that? Who's done it? All right. Yes, for AI. So Sarah, tell us how that works and what have you done?
Well, just with really simple bots, creating them, and then just like trying to break each other's bots, basically, just doing whatever we can to try to make it misbehave. And then, if it does, go back and go back into the system prompt and change things for the better.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else? All right, so the term itself comes from cybersecurity, right? And in cybersecurity, the thought would be, hey, let's create a red team and let's mimic bad actors and let's have massive intrusion into our system. And then our blue team would be, let's consider the positive scenarios and let's build on that. When we apply it to AI, what we're saying is that we consider different types of risk: compliance risk, technical risk, reputational risk, and then we'll put into our systems either doing it through a bot itself using AI to break AI, if you will, or human beings trying to figure out where the intrusion points are, get our system to play each other and focus on the negative side, focus on the vulnerabilities. Right. So that's the red team approach. Our blue team approach says, well, we're gonna march forward. We're going to leave the negative bad actor situation to the red team, and we're just going to focus on the growth and the development of our features. As we put those things together, what we can do is we can make sure that our Agile VMO is embedding an ethics team that does both of these things: the red team scenario acting and the blue team product development, if you will. So that's how we pull it all together with an Agile VMO that does three things: lean portfolio management, adaptive governance, and then responsible AI. All right. So that was step number 3. I want you guys to try out something over here. We have created at light speed a Copilot, a chat bot that operates on top of ChatGPT 4.0. You can test it out yourself. So, very high level, but super useful if you're just getting started. Please use the QR code, and it'll take you to ChatGPT. And the second, if you want to go there and click on the second standard prompt, if you will, prepared prompt, describe how to integrate an AI red team into the VMO. Try it out. Check it out. And if anybody wants to do that in real time, tell us what you find. Let us know what it looks like. Anyone able to check it out? Got a not found. Ooh. Well, so if you don't have a sign-in, if you don't have an account with ChatGPT, you can use your Google account and then sign in using Google. But
I have an account and I selected create an essential roadmap for an Agile VMO and I got not found in orange.
try this one. I'm not sure why that happened, but describe how to integrate an AI red team into the.
I have tried and I've got the results.
You got the results?
Yeah, I have the 5 steps how to do this.
See if you can copy and paste it into the chat.
Okay, okay. I'll do this.
Okay, thank you.
How I can do this from my phone. Okay.
I got some results too.
All right. Yeah, so that's an example that we sort of made available to anyone who has an account with ChatGPT, where you can take this chatbot that we've created and figure out how to set up an Agile VMO and then how to integrate AI responsibly using the Agile VMO. A little bit of a practical application. Okay. All right. Any technical folks here? Developers, DevOps engineers? Nobody? Okay. Who knows what the term CI/CD stands for? I wish. Okay, sure.
No, we have.
Yeah, we have. R. Kopolov says yes. So, R. Kopolov, if you could please tell us, help us. It's actually not continuous improvement. CI/CD, continuous integration. There you go. I'm not getting your first name, R. Kopolov. Let's see. Yes, it's only so. It's continuous integration, continuous delivery, and it's one of the fundamental things that come to us from the practice of DevOps. So DevOps being the practice of, or the discipline of, combining operations and development and making sure we can deliver as quickly to production, making sure we have all of the risk management built in, making sure that we have the a easy way to stand up and tear down our infrastructure and just create this pipeline of delivery of our products to production as quickly as possible. And so that's called continuous integration, continuous delivery, CI/CD. It's an integral part of many of our scaled Agile frameworks, including the scaled SAFe. And we're now at a point that companies like Amazon just deliver stuff to production literally in milliseconds, right? Every second they can deliver stuff. If you're doing product development, we don't necessarily want that rate of delivery, but at any point we should be able to deliver anything within our products to our customers, or at least to production through what we call dark releases. So just being able to deliver seamlessly and having all the checkpoints, having all the discipline built in is part and parcel of DevOps. Now, there's an interesting concept that says, as we start to experiment with machine learning and with LLMs, large language models, or other models, we need to have a similar approach to that and make sure that we can bring those models under configuration control, make sure we have the checkpoints, integrate security, and then be able to extend from DevOps to MLOps, or machine learning operations. Right? And so, all of that stuff, we believe, needs to, number one, come under some monitoring. And we talked about monitoring at the management level with the Agile VMO. But can we now embed into our platform, an end-to-end platform, ways to monitor and look for maybe potential infractions of the AI and make sure that we can responsibly integrate, version control, and manage and deploy these models, whether it's through regular audits, automatic audits, making sure that we can always explain what's happening in the models, making sure that all the decisions of the model is transparent. If you need to go back and figure out what went wrong, let's say our Uber car, self-driving Uber went and banged into somebody. It's like, what made the decision? What happened? Can we go back and do some forensics and figure out what happened, right? So auditing, monitoring, and if necessary, decommissioning the AI needs to be part of what we do, right? So this is on the technical side, and that is our fourth step. And then, not to keep you too long, but also maybe I'll do a little advertising over here for Microsoft. I don't get paid by Microsoft. I just found this video, but they have something called GitHub Copilot. Right? Who's heard of GitHub Copilot? Right? So they have Office Copilot, but they have something called GitHub Copilot, right? And so GitHub Copilot, even as we look at the models, even as we make sure that we have the right governance for our models, we need to make sure that we're maintaining human agency as we integrate these technologies. So here we're saying that let's not just focus on the technology. Let's make sure that whatever we are doing with AI is there to optimize or improve the developer experience. It's about our human beings, right? It's about, as Agilists we say, where it's always about the team, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So as we bring in these processes and tools, let's make sure that we're actually enhancing the developer experience, not diminishing it. So in case you're not familiar with GitHub Copilot, here's a little clip I found online where they talk about what it can do, and a quick demo of how it really makes the developers' lives easier.
Let's take a look at GitHub Copilot and some of the amazing productivity features it now enables.
GitHub Copilot is a mature and trusted AI pair programmer, now used by more than 1 million developers. It's fantastic at turning natural language comments to code and predicting the code you need next. For example, if I want to add a new route to my Node application, Copilot can help me do that. I'll write a comment explaining what I want, and GitHub Copilot writes the code for me, following the patterns I've used elsewhere in my file. And if it doesn't give me exactly what I want the first time, it will work with me, ultimately making me more productive. And with GitHub Copilot Chat, it truly feels like I'm working with a pair programmer. For example, I can ask general programming questions like, what password standards should I check for in my code? In this case, it even provided some sample code I could use. I have some password validation code already, but it's a regular expression, and those are not easy to interpret at a glance. So I can use the /explain command in GitHub Copilot Chat to help explain code I'm unfamiliar with, even if it's a regular expression. I can even ask specific questions about the code I'm looking at. In this case, I have a suspicion we're generating invalid passwords. Sure enough, we are, and Copilot even gives me a suggested fix. But I want to show you something new. GitHub Copilot Chat can also be invoked inline, so it can work with the code in place, making refactoring simple. To get to it, highlight or put your cursor over the relevant code and hit Control or Command-I. For example, I can ask for a change in natural language, and it will show me the changes it's going to make, just like a Git diff. Let's accept that change. Copilot Chat inline is also useful for documentation. Using the doc command, it will add comments specific to the language I'm working in. And even better, I can even ask for tests for the code I'm looking at. Even though I'm using Copilot Chat inline, it's smart.
I want to stop there because there's a little more that they go into. But basically, my thought over here is that a big part of responsibly integrating AI into our organizations is to make sure that we're always subjugating those technologies to the developer experience, to our team members' experience, to our testers' experience. And so let's just not get caught up and throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, hey, we don't need developers anymore. I think you hear some of that. So some of those things that are starting, it's like, we're not going to need developers in another 15 years from now. I don't know that I believe that. I think we'll need fewer developers because the developers that we will have, there you go, Bob has got that great augment versus replace. We need to augment ourselves. We need to augment our developers. We need to augment even our leaders. and make sure that we're learning as quickly as these technologies come by our way. So from that perspective, I think it's always better for us to be inside the tent looking out and not outside the tent looking in. We need to be knowledgeable about these techniques. We need to be knowledgeable about what they can do, what they can't do. And then let's augment versus replace and make sure that we provide these tools so we can become more productive and grow the top line, not just look at reducing the bottom line. Okay? So with that, it brings us to the last of my 5 points in my my cheat sheet over here. And this is on the product side. So far we've been talking about iteration in the management level. Let's make sure we put this VMO and we can iterate on our techniques over there at the management level, including red team and blue team approach to responsible AI integration. We talked about iterating on the developer side, making sure that we can do on the looking downstream. And then now if you look upstream, what about getting closer to the customer? What about product ideation? So
the main
I'm going to skip over this video because I think we're at about 1 hour. I want to leave some time for questions. So here's what we're talking about. Just like we have an extension of DevOps into MLOps, now we're talking about an extension and another set of iteration that is more product facing, that is more customer facing. And what we want to do is that we can iterate through the ideation cycle really quickly, hyper iteration, if you will. We can iterate through a discovery cycle, so we can come up with ideas, we can iterate on them. The good ideas then go into discovery, we validate them, we discover what the solutions are after validating what the problems are. Let's get a hyper iteration going on. And then and only then, we move into our agile refinement and delivery, right? So our Scrum backlogs our safe backlogs pick up in that last circle, but this is our parallel. Some people call it a double diamond approach. Some people might call it a dual track agile approach. But here's what we're saying is that we need to be able to ideate and focus on the idea, validating whether we have a problem, and then and only then moving into into the solution itself, right? So I don't know if you guys have heard of something called the lean canvas. Put something in the chat to indicate whether you know what a lean canvas is or not. Anyone know what a lean canvas is? So lean canvas is a tool made popular by a guy called Ash Maurya. He built on the earlier work of Alex Osterwalder with the business model canvas. It basically says you have a product idea, you want to quickly iterate and find product market fit. And once you do that, you want to keep iterating on your features. You can use this visual tool, and you can go to leanstack.com. And here's what it might look like. So this is an example of lean canvas. And in the past, when we've done product development, you get all the data, you put it in manually, and you check out and see how it works. And then there's a lot of thinking, if you will. And I apologize if this is an eye chart, but I said one of the things I've started doing now is that when we start to put a lean canvas, I just go to ChatGPT or Claude, and I put in the idea and say generate a lean canvas. And I did one for this. I said generate a product idea or lean canvas dashboard, a product idea for a responsible AI dashboard. So if I'm a project manager or if I'm an organization that now is looking at it, creating a dashboard that allows me to look at responsible AI. So I'm sort of pulling those together. Went and threw that into ChatGPT, and then here we go. This is the result. So this is I would say about 70% done. So the problem could be lack of transparency, inconsistent adherence to AI ethics and governance, difficulty tracking in AI project risk. Our unique value proposition, if you will, at the center is a single comprehensive dashboard to monitor, audit, and guide AI practices. This is all something that came in seconds back from ChatGPT. So I can take this, and now we can start to iterate, and now we have a rapid acceleration and iteration, if you will, on the product discovery side. So what we can do is now we can use these AI technologies not only on the downstream processes with GitHub Copilot, we can use them now for product discovery, even as we're iterating in the management side. So that's the third sort of rapid cycle of iteration. You put it all together. We start with our fit for purpose foundation. We make sure that we organize by value stream, making sure that we put in all the AI governance checkpoints. We do a shift up to the Agile VMO, a shift right to from DevOps to MLOps and improving the development experience, and then shift left to product discovery. All right. I think I hit it in about an hour. What do you think, Alex and Katerina and others? Questions? Everybody here?
Yeah, I think everyone can ask questions. Free to ask, verbal, I guess.
And Rich says he's got a new book available. Thank you.
Hey, Sanjiv and everyone, this is Bill Pratt. Really great stuff. But what is there a proposed solution to this that's being offered, or is this an overview?
So when you say this, you're talking about the approach, Bill, is that correct?
Yeah, so it seems to me we've identified a number, like some targets and some goals, but is there a tool? I think we were talking at the very beginning about an 8-year progress towards a tool or set of processes to address some of this.
I don't know that there's any single tool or framework right now, Bill. The things that I pulled out today, we can think of 3. So if you're looking at the VMO and you're looking at getting some AI assistance over there, you can use the free chatbot over there. It's on ChatGPT, so that's the tool there. If you're looking at improving the developer experience, then we're looking at GitHub Copilot, and that's from Microsoft. And like, what did they say? They got about 1 million developers that are using it. And then if you're looking at product discovery, we can use these standard generative AI tools, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT, to generate product discovery artifacts like the lean canvas very quickly. So we're basically saying, or what I'm advocating is look out there, look at all these different things out there that are out there, and apply them intelligently to each one of those 3 cycles, if you will. There's an iterative cycle on the management side, there's an iterative cycle on the development side, and there's an iterative cycle on the discovery side.
Great, thank you. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss that.
Well, we got Marcos always here who says Atlassian intelligence and system of work by Rovo AI. Okay, so tell us a little more about that, Marcos. Yes, I've seen Chat PRD. That's pretty good. Thanks, Mom. That's for product demand. Marcos, what's Marcos?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, but my English is a little English. I cannot apport to you to this product, this fantastic product and platform that combine all the principles that you say. So sorry.
Thank you. And that's called Rovo AI.
Yes, it's powerful. It's so powerful.
Fantastic.
And could you give us, Marcus, a couple of examples? How are you using it exactly?
Because combine one context with your knowledge base with Confluence, and you can construct building your own framework, and you can govern this, and you can combine your process with Jira, your knowledge base with Confluence, and Robo Intelligence of Atlassian can work together with one team graph that all is a system of work with all teams, projects, process, team of marketing, resource, human, and with Robo Intelligence, it's a big searcher and a process with that permit that you construct, building your own database for end users. It's not for an expert in Python or machine learning. No, nothing. No, it's for end users and work so well. Thank you. Thank you for being me.
Thank you so much. Other questions, thoughts? Bill, did we answer your question? Looks like there's a tool out there, Vrovo AI.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, it took me a bit to find the mute on my phone here. Thanks.
All right, so I will hand it back over to Alexey and Katerina.
Yeah, for sure. But I hope that since we have so many folks still on this call, we can either share the experiences, ask questions, or discuss some topics while we still have a luxurious opportunity to have Sanjiv with us. As for me, Sanjiv, I'm wondering if we would invite you, let's say in 1 year or in 2 years, to speak about a similar topic. What do you think, how different your approach would be from today?
A similar topic as in how to integrate Agile and AI?
Right, yeah, similar topic, but after 2 years of innovation has passed.
Yeah. So, that's a great question. And there's so much change that is going on. And people say, well, what is going to change? And we have no idea. There's so much that's going to change, right? But I think it is Jeff Bezos and Amazon. He says, when you're looking at strategy, look also for the things that are not going to change. So when it comes to the AI technology, it's going to change. It's going to change by the months, by the weeks, and maybe even sometimes by the hours. Like the technologies are going to be changing all the time. Different competitors will come up, different tools will come up. Looks like there's a great tool that I've not been aware of called Vrovo AI that I need to go and do some homework around. So there's going to be stuff that's coming up. And it's rising rapidly. But I'm going to ask you the question. What do you think is not going to change? And I won't skip the question. I'll answer it myself briefly. I think what's not going to change is our human aspirations for doing a good job, for seeking opportunities to making a difference in the world, and making sure that we can all live good lives. Right. So as much as we can apply agile methods, as much as we can integrate AI into our lives to do those things, that the demand for those things will never go away. We're all human beings. We're professionals. We're intelligent professionals. We're looking at these potentially damaging and potentially promising set of technologies. But there are some things that are fundamental to our human experience, and those are not going to change. So if I'm going to be back here, to answer your question, if I'm going to be back here a year from now, I'll probably be talking about, again, what are those foundational things that we can take into the future. We've taken agile methods for 20 plus years. They made a phenomenal difference to how people work together, how people work in their organizations, how we built a more human-centered experience in our organizations, how we've accelerated a delivery of value to our customers, and we've done it in a humane and a human-centric fashion, if you will. Now, what we're seeking to do with AI is the same thing, is let's build on that. Let's not lose our humanity as AI comes up, and let's make sure that we can integrate these and learn. So I don't know exactly what I'll be talking about that's going to be different, but I know what I'm going to be talking about that's the same. How about you guys? What do you think?
Oh, this is Bill. I'll offer something. So having just come from the federal government in January, I know there's a number of great AI tools, and a lot of people are putting together really nice interfaces to make it easier to use the large language models. I think there's going to be an opportunity for service providers to use these tools to help the government. I don't think we'll be able to jump the chasm right away to just provide the tools to government employees, federal employees, and have them do the stuff. They're far too busy, I think, and frankly understaffed. I think there's a big opportunity for setting up folks who can take these AI tools and leverage them to solve some of the government problems. And that's something I'll be looking into, and I'm very excited about it.
Thank you, Bill. Others?
I think these tech companies are going to be running nuclear power facilities to power the AI data centers, and that's very scary.
Yeah, I saw that they're even bringing 3 Mile Island.
Yeah, Microsoft bought the 3 Mile Island, so that's a little scary.
That's really fun. I wonder what's going to happen when no nukes meets, hey, I can't get my TikTok. That's going to be an interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's going to make Alexey's question interesting. Are we going to be here in 2 years? We might not be here.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in for just a second. I've been for the last while really very, very purposeful on the behavioral part of where we swim in, whether it's project management or product management, etc. And I've been involved with AI, machine language, since the early mid-90s, doing some work with Palo Alto Research Center, where we just didn't have the quantum computer capacities that we have now. So there's some great opportunities there. I think it's up to us that are on this call to make sure that we present the value of AI as supportive to ensure that we humanize work.
Yeah.
Right now, it is being sold out there and kind of creating fear. As there's a lot going on here in the United States, not making a political statement, but creating fear all the way around. Do this or you'll die, or whatever else happens. And it's really up to us to really step back and recognize that no matter what happens, we're, for a long time, we've been human. Not much has changed in the way the brain works. And we're doing it's up to us to go ahead and make sure we can mitigate as many biases as possible, that we do it responsibly. We're doing a lot of work with mitigating bias on AI with Neurobehavioral Project Management Institute. And there's going to be a bunch of new stuff coming out. And I'd like to reach out to you as well to perhaps in the somewhat near future, collaborate and bring up some of the stuff that we're finding that are interest to go ahead and share, and so on and so forth. So again, it's up to us to go ahead and make sure we align it so it's a value proposition that will help people that not distinguish much between my work life and my personal life is one life, folks. And what do you do with it? And the more we cognitively overload everybody, put fear in there, we're going to be reacting very incorrectly and using AI for what we think it can do for us instead of what is the value we can add. So, okay, let me step down from my little ranting stool here. But really, it's up to us because I like to think that we all want to make this right.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. And actually, I popped a link in the chat. I've been doing some stuff in conjunction with Microsoft for Good. They have a great, there's a book out there, Juan Ferris is the author, and they have a lab, the AI for Good lab, that they're doing an amazing amount of work. And we need to hear more about those stories and amplify those things, I believe.
Yeah, let's chat later. Anytime we all know how to get a hold of each other. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, there's so many things that, I mean, first of all, we already benefit, all of us, from AI that is already in your life, right? Whether it's Amazon throwing stuff in front of you or just the ability to look at your phone and open it, right? So, I mean, there's basic things there that we've all, like you said, Bill, it's been around for a long time. It's not new. I think the fear that we're all seeing is, when you start to see things that do your job, right? They, produce code or whatever it is, that's where people start to get scared, because then they hear, oh, well, that will free you up to be more creative, right? And then you start thinking, well, that's great, but is somebody going to be paying me to be more creative? Or, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, we're going to come up with ideas. Okay, well, that's great. But it also comes up with that. So I think originally it was sort of like being pushed as this will help take care of the menial tasks that you don't want to do, and you're going to be the creative one. And now what we're seeing is, no, it's actually pretty creative. And then it does the menial tasks. So I think that's what starts to cause the fear, is when people see their work, their livelihood being replicated in a tool. And then it's like, oh crap, what am I going to do? And
just like in project management, though, if your idea to be a project manager is to actually deliver value to your customer, etc., and it feels great when you see them happy, that's what their job is not to fill out all these silly forms that they're probably going to screw up.
Understood.
Whatever else. I think, and I read this somewhere, I think Walmart is doing this. They're training their customer service reps to actually be of value and do the reason they're there, which to help their customer. How good is it? How do you feel when they say, thank you, you really helped me? And you didn't have time. You had a queue you were being measured on for how many people you ran through the mill.
Yeah.
We're giving you now, rep, an opportunity to do what you love to do and feel great when you go home.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do, instead of saying, well, we could go ahead and get more work out of them.
Exactly.
Doesn't work. So
I agree with you. And either way, I think you're right. Either it's going to be that way, or we're all going to be working at Walmart.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing work that doesn't feel so great, just think about how you can do it and make it feel.
Exactly. I'm all about that. Yeah, you're right.
I'll take Starbucks over Walmart, Bill.
Oh, well, I don't know if you're going to. It's going to tell you where you're going to go.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah, right.
No agency.
You're not going to have any.
I understand.
All right. Anybody else?
Great. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And gals.
I may have a last question for today's conversation. So we've covered a lot of things related to us professionals, but what do you think, Sanjiv, young people like students or teenagers can do in order to keep up with this revolution and to be on the edge when they start at their first workplace, let's say?
Yeah, I think that's a fundamental question. On one hand, we're looking at those of us who have, in the workforce, who've been around for several decades, and we have to figure out what we're going to do. And then we have the next generation. Our kids are entering the workforce, and they're going to college or their first job. I've sort of been involved with AI conversations, not just in the tech side, but also in the arts and in the religious communities. And one of the things we're finding out is that there's actually going to be more demand for the creative side, for the non-technological side, because as Bob pointed out, the AI will perhaps do a lot of the legwork, a lot of the tactical things, but also maybe some of the creative things. But some of the ideas, the writing, the literature, the politics, the music, this is a part of our brain that our kids should continue to develop and then bring it in conjunction with the AI tools. So yes, you might have Sora or some tool that can go out and create things, but again, if you're going to tap into what is uniquely, for now at least, uniquely human about us, and what is differentiating us from a neural network or an advanced neural network that becomes a large language model, I think it's the creative side and the art side of it that we can bring to bear in conjunction with technology, because the technology is incredible. It's unbelievable what this stuff will do, right? So I don't know that, at least for ourselves, our kids can maybe a little faster, but you look at the speed that these models can give these answers. So I think we have to figure out where they cannot play, and then really look at how we and our kids and younger folks and the folks who are entering the workforce. That's where the unique contributions, and it sort of brings us back to the question of what it is about us that makes us uniquely human. So I'm hopeful that these AI tools and this whole sort of thing will drive us in that direction to understand who we are as people. And as Rich was saying, let's not sort of be Bill was saying, excuse me, there's a level of polarization and uncivil discourse that we need to sort of get beyond. Let's look at who we are as human beings. Let's look at how we are different, and let's look at how we can help each other.
Right. I'm just wondering because my stepmother, she's a teacher, and she tells me how she sees that each new generation of kids have less capacity of concentration. And now they can use ChatGPT for doing their homework. So how can they still develop and use the technology so that they are prepared in their workforce and they are still developed in their intelligence? That's a kind of tricky question.
Yeah. This is kind of funny because I have two things about this. One, my youngest son, he's 31, we were doing some business thing the other day, and he's trying to come up with a sort of business plan. And he goes, "Is it cheating if I use ChatGPT?" And I'm like, "No." Like, why would you think it's like, of course you should use it. And so it's kind of interesting because like it's there, but I remember when I like became an engineer in my younger years, and I remember people telling me that unless I learned how to use a slide rule, I'll never be a good engineer. But I never use this. I mean, I maybe twice, and I was like, why? I have this calculator right here. It does it. Like, you don't need that. So I think part of it is generational, that we see that we always see the younger generation, like how they're going to learn if they don't concentrate, but they do other things. They do it differently, just like our last generation thought that we were going to be messed up. So that's one thing. And I'm also very happy that my grandchildren, which I have 6 of them, I said to them the other day, I was like, "Hey, did you ever see this ChatGPT thing?" And they're like, "What's that?" I was like, "Yes, finally, finally, I'm on top. I got something that they don't know." So it's kind of curious. So it's interesting though for teachers, because my daughter's a teacher, and she's dealing with this now, and it is going to be different. Like, they should learn how to use that, and maybe their creativity and what they do is going to evolve, and that's what it should be. It shouldn't have to be the same thing. It's like Bill said, we're still humans. Our brains are the same. They're still constructed the same, but they do have to take in a lot more information than they used to. So maybe it's just part of the evolution. Is we can't always look at it like these kids will never learn. It's just start sounding like the older generations, right? Like, I used to walk to school barefoot both ways uphill, like that stuff. And so I to me, that just plays a little bit into the fear, I think, that Bill was talking about. Like, you kind of like you're trying to avoid it because, like, gee, if you don't learn how to do this, how are you gonna, if you can't read a book, how are you gonna read? Like that kind of stuff. But it's gonna be different. It's not gonna be this. They're gonna look at this like recordings like this and go, "Why were people squares on screens? Like, what was that all about?" Like this will be like ridiculous. So part of evolution.
Thanks for your input. So I think with this, we are ready to wrap up. And that was an amazing session. Thank you, Sanjiv, and thank you, everyone, for attending it. We'll be sharing the recording with everyone who signed up. And see you around. See you in our next meetings. And have a good Halloween time.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you so much. And
Thank
please
you.
connect over LinkedIn.
AI generated background right there.
Right. Yeah.
This was great.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for the
much.
insight.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Sanjiv and everyone.
Hi, everybody. Good
Thank
seeing
you,
you all.
Sarah. Bye, Bill. Both Bills.
Happy
Katerina,
Halloween.
Alex.
Yeah.
Take